Good afternoon, Rotarians, guests, and friends, and welcome to those of you who are on Zoom as well. Thank you for being here with us today on this August 25th meeting of the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. We welcome you. We will begin with the playing of the national anthem, after which we will have the invocation and four-way test by Larry Cunningham.
Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for your providential care this day, for your goodness and your mercy. As Rotarians, we ask that you direct our steps, our minds, and our hearts to be other-focused. Through your Spirit, guide us to act in ways that improve societal conditions for friends, neighbors, and those of other nations. May our businesses reflect the Rotarian four-way test. May our country corporately and we individually have a positive impact in our spheres of influence through exhibiting fairness and truthfulness in all of our personal and business dealings. May we build goodwill with those of other faiths and cultures than our own. Today, we particularly lift up those with design and engineering talents and expertise to make our city, country, and world a safer place. Thank you for manifesting this through our speaker, Rich Pohana. We thank you for the hands that designed, prepared, and served the food that we have partaken today. May we show appreciation daily toward those who serve us. We ask all of this through and by your beneficial hand of care. In your name we pray. And now, please recite the four-way test with me. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Next, our prospective members, visitors, and guests will be introduced by Andy Magenheim, followed by greetings from our meeting sponsor, Stepping Stones Executive Director, Chris Adams.
Thank you, President M. Welcome to today's guests. We have three today. First is Craig Davis, a guest of Jack Scott from Terracon. Please stand. Thank you and welcome. Next is Samantha Dickerson, a guest of Melinda Kelly. And finally, Eric Russo from Hillside Trust, a guest of Lori Quinville. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President Melinda. My name is Chris Adams, and I am the Impact Officer at Stepping Stones, which is an impact organization that provides services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We've been around since 1963 and have conducted programming in various locations. Currently, we have 4 locations that we conduct programming. We have a program, an adult day array program on the west side of town. We have a program in Uptown, which is adult day array. We have a program in Indian Hill, which is an autism program for individuals that can't make it in a typical school setting. And we also provide respite services both at Camp Allen and the given location in Indian Hill. We are proud to be a sponsor of today's meeting and enjoy the relationship we have with Rotary. We've been involved with the Rotary Club since 1976 with the eradication of polio. We formed an alliance to conduct programming out at Camp Allen, respite programming, and we also have an adult day array program. So anyone interested in learning more about Stepping Stones, you could visit our website, and I thank you all, and I'm happy to be with you today, and I'll be back.
Thank you very much, Chris. Next, we will have a new member introduction by Nancy Reese, followed by Chris Adams coming back again from Stepping Stones to give us some information about our Rotary picnic that's upcoming this weekend. Nancy?
Thank you, President Melinda. I am very honored and excited to introduce Eric Fogg to you. is one of our newest members of our wonderful Rotary Club of Cincinnati. Eric was born and raised in Athens, Georgia, and looking for adventure and observing all the wonderful places in the world that the Marine Corps has bases, he decided to join the Marines. But, as Eric told me, he was stationed in North Carolina for all 3 years, and the most exciting adventure was trekking through the mud for 13 miles. So, Rotary is going to be his source of adventure. Let's see. In addition to being a Marine Corps infantry veteran, Eric is a realtor with Coldwell Banker. Eric moved to Cincinnati this past May with his girlfriend, Julia, and they live in Cincinnati with their cat, Piper. Julia is a recent graduate of the University of Georgia's veterinary school, and she's working here in Cincinnati. And she is also Eric's prime candidate to be his first member that he sponsors to our Rotary Club here in Cincinnati. In his free time, Eric enjoys bowling. Where's Gary? Gary Kendall. Bowling, travel, reading, hiking, and disc golf. Eric is very excited to be a new Rotarian and looks forward to being an active member and serving our community. When I first met Eric through his potential mother-in-law-to-be, who is my neighbor, I asked him what he knew about Rotary, and he says he knows that we're this close to eradicating polio in the world, which I thought was awesome. And then it's like, so he had seen the billboards. And then Eric told me that his grandfather had been infected with polio when he was young. So another good reason why he's interested in helping us eradicate polio. Eric has already, volunteered for balloon rides at Camp Allen, even though he wasn't yet a member. And he also, I was very impressed with the fact that he memorized the four-way test when he came to our second meeting, so that he could say the four-way test when we recited it too. So, Eric and Julia will also be at the picnic this Saturday, so he's looking forward to that. And he says he's really good at cornhole, so beware those of you that are in the cornhole tournament. So when asked on his application why he wants to become a Rotarian, Eric responded, to change the world. I believe he will. Please join me in welcoming Eric Fogg to our club. Congrats.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and welcome, Eric. Chris Adams will come back again and give us some more information regarding the Rotary Picnic that's coming up this Saturday.
Thank you, President Melinda. Well, this weekend we have the annual Rotary Picnic. This is a family-friendly event, and it is held out at Camp Allen. We are very proud of Camp Allen, Stepping Stones, and of course the Rotary Club. And this is an opportunity to bring your family out and get to see the amazing property that we have out there. So that's one of the things that should be a good driver, so that if you haven't visited Camp Allen, you can come out and take a look. A lot of activities planned for the day. First, we're going to start with a pre-picnic car rally at 11 o'clock, and they're meeting down in New Richmond, and there is information out on the table concerning that pre-rally. And that sounds like that's going to be a lot of fun with various stops throughout the trip back to Camp Allen. They're going to arrive back, I think, around 1:30 and then set up the cars. So if anybody wants to come, when they come at 3 o'clock, when check-in is, they'll get to see all the cars that sort of were participating in that pre-car rally. A lot of activities going on out there. We're going to have archery. Stepping Stone staff will be spending some time down at the archery location for anybody that's interested in partaking in archery. Our lifeguard will be available up by Scott Pond, and we will be able to fish. We will provide poles and bait, so you just need to bring a good attitude, and if you're a fishing person, you'll have a great time up there because the pond is well stocked. We have a bowling lane that's next to the pavilion if some of the children want to participate in that, but also some of our adults would like to do that. We will have mule rides again, and this year the parking will be anyone that is a senior person and needs to park will be in the first entrance, which is the main entrance to camp, and they will be able to park in the paved area, and any of us younger folks, myself included, will park at the upper side, and we'll have mule rides to bring you down from the parking lot to check-in. So that's a new feature. While I'm on the topic of mule rides, we will have rides later in the day that go out to the new property. So if you're interested in seeing some of the new property that was acquired by the foundation, this is a great opportunity to come out and do that. The food will be provided by Hilvers. They do a great job every year, and the bar opens at 4 and it closes at 8 for those that are interested in partaking in adult libation. We also have free Reds caps that will be handed out. And of course, what picnic wouldn't be complete if we didn't have an ice cream truck? And so I encourage everybody coming to the picnic to make sure you get 2 or 3 ice creams, because it's a great time to go back to your youth and remember those times. Split the pot will be something that will be offered also. But remember, check-in will be at 3 o'clock. Through 5, and again, the mules will be there. And then, of course, the picnic's one competitive event is the cornhole tournament. And Commish Mike LaValle has almost a full sheet. We have 4 spots left. So you want to see him after the meeting if you're interested in partaking in the cornhole tournament. This year's winner gets a set of bags and $100, and our second place individual will get $50, and our third place individual will get $25. So lots of activities. You can get a sign-up sheet outside at the table, or you can go online and get one and fill it out and send it into the office. The price is $35 for a ticket, and I hope we get a lot of folks to sign up and come out and join us out there. So look forward to a great event. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Chris. Next, we will have a membership development moment by membership chairperson Dan Long.
All right, first of all, a big shout out to Brian Vielhauer of Decal Impressions, who put together this wonderful poster for membership development. Did a great job. So you can see we've highlighted kind of Melinda's theme for the year, reaching higher heights. We have a goal of 40 new members before the end of Melinda's regime. And we're up to 8 members so far, so we're 20% of the way there. So Rotarians, we need everyone to be on board. Again, as we highlight here, bring a prospect for a free lunch. Please, we've got some great speakers coming up. We have some great events. I mean, the picnic would be a great opportunity to bring a prospect to. Come to a lunch, come to one of Hux's events on the weekend to help our community, but please bear in mind that we will reach 40 members, but we cannot do it without all your help. So thank you very much, and please bring a prospect before the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Dan. Dan and his committee have been working very hard on looking at activities coming up in the future. And we've got 8 members before we even started with the campaign, really. We get a lot of members because of our service and what we do out in the community. So the more we can involve people with what we do, I think the members will come. So thank you so much for your efforts and what you're doing there. And thank you, Dan, for the announcement, and Brian Vielhauer for your company for the beautiful signage. We have some additional announcements. We have some birthdays this week. August 25th is Deanne Fleming. August 27th, Deborah Schultz. And August 28th, we have 3 Rotary birthdays: Chris Adams, Deb Cayley, and Greg Morachek. Let's give them a round of applause. I have a special announcement regarding polio eradication and the efforts in Afghanistan. Club 17 and Rotary International remain committed to helping to eradicate polio from two endemic countries that are left, Pakistan and Afghanistan. We recently received an update from the vaccination efforts in Afghanistan from Rotary International Polio Committee Chair Michael McGovern. And his message follows. During 2020 and 2019, we saw an uptick in wild polio virus cases and in circulating vaccine-derived cases. Also, due to the coronavirus, polio vaccinations were suspended for a while in 2020. However, Taliban leaders have visited the national and regional polio offices and pledged their support for the polio eradication program. On August 23rd, Rotary sponsored a roadside vaccination hut, provided vaccinations to children under 5, with local Taliban providing the necessary security. It was very good. I think that deserves a round of applause. It's very good to see our Rotary logo, but even more so, Rotarians helping throughout the world and working in some areas that were very difficult to establish relationships with, but those relationships were established. The Rotary Club has only 35 members in Afghanistan, but they inspire us with their courage and their perseverance. The polio program has always been politically neutral in every country, and our Rotarians and Rotary International partner with leaders who are in charge in working with, which we have for years, WHO, the World Health Organization, and UNICEF, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. We are close to eradicating polio in Afghanistan, and we'll continue efforts which we started over 35 years ago with the Afghani people and with our partners. This was a detailed message sent to us from our zone representatives from Rotary International. Wanted to make sure you are aware of what's happening in this area, and Linda Muth, our executive director, will have another rendition of this that will go out in the E-rays as well to keep you informed. Members in the news, we just received word that Jack Horner, one of our members, is ill. He and his wife are meeting with the oncologist this Friday to develop a care plan for his treatment. Please keep Jack and his family in your thoughts and prayers so that he will get well soon. Additionally, a Rotarian and very active member, Owen Rassman, is undergoing knee replacement surgery today. Please keep him as well in your thoughts and prayers for a successful outcome. Our meeting next week will be Ray Takijiku from Bexion Pharmaceuticals. That will be our program for next week. Now we will focus our program today. But before we get started with the program for today, we will have Split the Pot. And with Split the Pot, $64 goes to Rotary, to the committee for membership development that Dan Long spoke about earlier. $32 goes to the winner whose ticket is pulled. And the big pot today, the accumulating pot, is $484. And also remember that all guests can participate in the initial drawing, but the accumulating pot can only be drawn by a member of Club 17. So thank you so much for your participation, and we will ask our speaker today, Rich Pohana, to pull the winning ticket, please.
Okay, the last 4 digits of the winning ticket are 9843.
It's Ed Mathis. Ed will be pulling for the Queen of Hearts for the accumulating pot of $484. Queen of Spades. Better luck next time. Thank you so much for participating, and congratulations, Ed. Now we will move with the introduction of our program today, and our speaker will be introduced by Mark Riekman.
Good afternoon. Al Conscious asked me to do the introduction today, and when I was speaking to him, he told me a story, and I'm not quite sure whether this story is all true. I want to get your reaction. So what Al told me was that the last time the Pope visited the United States, he came into JFK, his plane was running late, and so he was late for his appointments. He jumps in a cab, and he tells the cab driver to get him across town. Well, the cab starts going through New York, but he's not going fast enough to suit the Pope, so the Pope says, speed it up. Well, the cabbie sped it up a little bit, but still not enough to suit the Pope. The Pope said, faster. Well, at that point, the cab driver turned and said, Your Excellency, I know who you are, but if I get a ticket, I'll lose my job. The Pope said, scoot over, I'll drive. The Pope gets behind the wheel. He starts heading through Manhattan. He doesn't get 10 blocks before he's pulled over by the police. The cop walks up to the window. He takes one look at the Pope. He calls on his radio to a sergeant. He says, Sarge, you won't believe who I just caught speeding. And the sergeant says, did you stop the mayor? And the cop says, bigger. The sergeant says, did you stop the governor? The cop says, bigger. He said, did you stop the president? And the cop says, bigger. Finally, the sergeant says, I give up. Who did you stop? And the cop said, I don't know who this guy is, but he must be important. He's got the Pope driving his car. Now, we live in Cincinnati, which is a very hilly area, and sometimes hills move. And 3 years ago, for example, out on my side of town, the Columbia Parkway hillside decided it was time to move. And after many, many days of rain, that hillside came down and filled up Columbia Parkway. I'm sure many of you, if you've driven around town, you saw what a mess that was. Well, that's not the only time hillsides have moved in the city. They move all the time. I remember when 471 was put in, and they cut the toe of that hill at Mount Adams, and they had to build that retaining wall, which is a massive engineering project. Which brings me to our speaker today. Rich Pohana works for the City of Cincinnati, and he is our full-time hillside engineer. Who knew? There can't be that many people with that kind of job, but he has been doing that since the 1980s. He's got a degree from Cleveland State, undergraduate. He's got 2 graduate degrees from the University of Cincinnati, and he is a soils and geological engineer. Geotechnical engineer, thank you. And he's been managing and supervising these hillside projects all over town for the last 25, 30 years. I hope he would come and explain to us what's going on.
Thank you, Mark. It's really a great privilege to be here. Mark was telling me about all the distinguished speakers you've had throughout the years, and it's, like I said, it's a great honor to be asked to come and speak. I was told I had like 25 minutes to speak. I have 75 slides to get through, so we're looking at 20 seconds a slide, so we're going to kind of get moving on this here. Okay, so I'm here to talk about Columbia Parkway landslides, more specifically, the landslides that are occurring between Baines and Taft Torrance and our current landslide stabilization project. I believe we have a website that you can go to. You probably can get to this link here at some point in time if you would like to go there. Just go to City of Cincinnati, type in Columbia Parkway, and you'll eventually get there. So we're looking at the section between, as I said, Baines and Kemper, or Baines and Taft Torrance. Columbia Parkway itself runs from downtown Cincinnati 6.4 miles out to the Fairfax City of Cincinnati Corporation line. Kind of without my glasses a little bit here also. So anyways, you can see that the here's the Ohio River and how this section is on the outside of a meander in the Ohio River. So the river is actually cutting into that area of the hillside throughout geologic time. It's a very young valley at this location. The Ohio River, prior to the Illinois glaciation, went up the Little Miami to Marymount, through the Norwood Trough, and then up the Mill Creek Valley. The Licking River flowed north and then went up the I-75 corridor in the Mill Creek Valley. But that's a whole nother story, a whole nother presentation. There's a good pamphlet that the Natural History Museum has about the glaciation in Cincinnati, and you can go to that. That's was written by Richard Durrell, former UC professor. Okay, so the picture on the left is Columbia Avenue, and we're standing at Kemper Avenue looking east. So Columbia Avenue, that picture was in 1929. You can see it's a two-lane road, somewhat paved, houses on the right. You can see the hillside here on the left, on the uphill side, the left-hand side going east. And this is just east of Kemper here. And this is in what area that we're going to be calling areas 5 and 6. The picture on the right is an improved Columbia Avenue. And this is at Kemper Avenue in Columbia again. And we're looking west. You can see how they built the retaining walls, cut into the hillside to do that. You can see how they steepened the slope above the retaining walls and how the bedrock is exposed in that upper slope above the retaining wall. And this is right after it was constructed. You still see the vegetation higher up on the slope. Okay, they took that material that they excavated from the hillside on the uphill side, and they put it on the downhill side. Okay, so they loaded the slope below the Parkway, and they caused slides on the downhill side also. This is 1930, where it was still Columbia Avenue, and where they placed the soil on the downhill side, loaded that slope, and caused this landslide. This is that same area in 1938, and you can see still the area of where it slid in the past, where they put more fill. It looks more like a cinder fill right there. And then here's that same area again in the 1990s, 1991. You see it's still sliding. And the downhill portion of Columbia Parkway really wasn't stabilized completely until 1991, 92, 93, when ODOT did their project and it basically put piers on the downhill side of the Parkway. If you go on the Parkway, like I said, the Parkway itself is 6.4 miles from downtown to Fairfax. Probably 3.5 miles of it has piers on the downhill side of it. If you stacked all those piers on top of each other, it would extend over 10 miles into the air. But we're not really here to talk about what's going on the downhill side. We're talking about what's going on the uphill side. There was two really large landslides that occurred on the uphill side. The first was in 1975. Let's go back. Was in 1975. It's right here, and this is just west of the Audubon. Audubon's a small side street on the downhill side of Columbia Parkway. It's between Delta and Taft Torrance intersection, close to midway in between those two. Well, this came down in 1975, and it was the only time where retaining walls were knocked down. This photo is from 75 also. 160 feet of the retaining wall was knocked over at that time. At that time, it was H.C. Nunning Company did an investigation of this slide, and they attributed this large slide mainly due to spoil from a hillside quarry being thrown on the side of the hillside. The upper reaches of the hillside there contains the rock quarry bed of the Fairview Formation, which was often quarried for its limestone. It was intermingled with the shale, and they'd take the shale waste and just throw it down on the hillside. So that's what they attributed this slide to. The other major slide in 1996 was just at 2100 Columbia Parkway. That's in between Collins and Kemper. We started noticing soil accumulating on top of the wall, like typically you see if you travel along Columbia Parkway. We saw some start coming over the wall. And you investigate the hillside, and I went up on the hillside, and you go all the way up the hill, and that scarp of where the slide breaks away from the hillside was way up the hill. So we really didn't want to be removing soil from the base of the hill because we could have brought the whole hillside down. We cleaned up what was in the street, but we didn't still develop the plan of what to do at this location. We had a week later, we watched it for a week or so, and then a heavy rain was coming in that night. So we put a person out there who, if he started seeing it coming down onto the highway, was to close the road down. Not only was he there, but there was a person from the media, from Channel 9.
From this morning, our photographer Chick Poppy happened to be right there. This is about 6:30 when you see clumps of mud there going over the wall, cars still driving by. But watch what happens as the bottom of it just buckles out from underneath and forces the rest of it. It all comes tumbling down. Chick Poppy quickly getting out of the way there. Afterwards, it was quite a mess. You see the entire roadway, all 4 lanes were blocked, and they were for all morning rush hour, and they will be actually all weekend long.
So you can see it moves fairly quickly. You know, people call these mudslides. Another term could be rapid earth flow for the types of slides that we see on the on the uphill side of Columbia Parkway. Very lucky that no one was injured or killed at this occurrence. You saw all the cars passing by still, whether even to be covered by the landslide or veer off and go into oncoming traffic. Like I said, very lucky. I'm glad I taped this off the Channel 9 news station, and then I had it digitized years later, and I'm glad I kept it and preserved it. And I'm sure it's out there. I kind of kept it close, but now I'm sure it's out many places. But it was shown to the administration at the City of Cincinnati back in 2019, and they also saw aware of of what can happen out there. So it had a lot of influence on it. You can see it covered all 4 lanes. What's interesting is that if you look at the light pole, that it's still standing. The wires themselves kind of hold it up. It said it didn't actually come down on the ground. The wires kept it in at least somewhat vertical. So it moves right on the top of bedrock. You get these striations. They're called slicken sides. And you can see how it grooves. It's the harder pebbles and pieces of limestone scraping the surface, sort of like even glacier grooves. Okay, what's causing these slides? If you look in the 1948 Fontaine Porter, 1848, picture, you can see how the hillsides, back then, they were completely stripped of all the timber for firewood or fuel. So, we don't have any large growth vegetation on the hillside. It's the bedrock itself. It's called, in the lower portion of the hillside is the Cope Formation. It's predominantly shale. It'll have alternating, it's 80% shale, 20% limestone. The limestone occurs maybe in 2-inch thick layers, and they alternate maybe every 2 feet. But it's predominantly a shale. That shale is hard. It's just a compacted shale over time. So it's over, 400 years old here, so 400 million years old, compacted just by the weight of sediment on top of it. It's not cemented, so when you put water to it, you see it here after 5 minutes. I can't see what that is, that 15 minutes? And then here at 3 hours, it just breaks down, and it breaks down into a soil then. Quickly, loses its strength. The other cause, of course, is when they constructed the retaining walls on the uphill side, they excavated in front of them in the hillside. They steepened behind the retaining walls, as we see in the pictures here. That steepened slope behind the walls. It's shale now, right in 1938, but this is going to weather into a soil, and that soil cannot stay on that hillside. This was a cross-section through a landslide on Columbia Parkway that a student of a co-student, when I came to Cincinnati, I helped him do this survey this section down the hillside. And this was back in 1989, and you can see the breaks in the slope. You see it. This is the bedrock, the soil layers on top. It just breaks all the way up at the top, but you get these smaller slides, which then break away from the slide mass in the lower portion of the slope. These here we can grab. All right, but we can't because they're not doing anything to stabilize that slope. So we can take those off the hillside. If we start getting up higher into the slope, taking these, well, then we might bring all of this down. All right. So 2019 was a very, very wet year, and we started getting lots of slides. Okay, this was January of 29. This is what I'm calling Area 5-6. It's about 700 feet east of Kemper. You can see the Edgecliff Towers up above there. But that came down, it started coming over the hill on a Sunday afternoon, and I got a call saying, hey, I'm starting to see a tree leaning out, So okay, I'll go out again, all right. And Sunday, watching football, but anyway. So you go out there, and yeah, the trees are leaning. You go up on look up the hill, and you see the break, the scarp up the hillside there. It's wet, it's raining, and so yes. So I called our transportation people, and we just shut the whole parkway down now. We really don't take that chances of everything coming down, although this wasn't as large as that other area. I just wanted to say that area in 1996 that slid, that also slid in 1945, and there was other factors where there was fill being placed on the top of that slope also, which caused that sudden movement. But this was, in January of 29. Typically, we have to come out then. It occurred on a Sunday. This is Tuesday. So, we have to arrange for the trees to get cleared out of the slide mass so we can put it in the trucks. You can't put the trees in the trucks, so you got to take away all the trees before you can get to the soil to take it away. You have special conditions, if you have a tree inside of the wires up above, you have to bring in special people to clear that, not just our typical tree clearers. So they have to be certified to work in the wires. And as you saw on the picture in the presentation for this talk, once you have to haul the soil off the hillside in order to reach all the way up to the scarp. They bring the soil down, create a ramp, and then he can climb up and get all the way up to the very top of where it broke loose from the hillside. So once again, that was January 29th. 2 weeks later, we get another slide that's coming down just west of Kemper. Comes down once again on a Sunday. Monday morning, we're shutting down the road again in order to clear it. This is that same slide. I believe this is a Fox 19 video. I hope I got the right station, but it's Fox 19. You see all this material in here came down. The scarps goes all the way up into the hillside, and this is on the 14th. Okay, 2 days later, we couldn't get all the way up to the top here to remove it, and so there was some trees left up in the top area here, which then slid down in the middle of the day quickly and stopped. So once again, we're shutting this down here. Had to go up high and cut all of this material out here. You see on the sides where it's separated, from the hillside. Ready to come over the wall. All of this has that potential, but it could also stay there for a good period of time. But it has that potential to come over. This is another slide then that occurred 2019, February. I believe it's February 22nd. I think I was at Kroger's when I got a phone call on this one. But here, there's a crib wall here that was constructed in 1965 by ODOT. We were getting some movement up on top. This wall started moving, and it was on a shelf there, and that wall was pushed out over the shelf. And what's behind the crib wall? It looks like Lincoln Logs wall, and that crib wall is backfilled with sand. And once you moved that wall over that ledge, there was a little gap there, and that sand just kept on unraveling. And then we had another large slide here, another emergency landslide, evacuated some houses, closed the road again. So there was a lot of action going on in January and February of 2019. So the city administration said, what can we do about this? And well, it's going to cost you some money. Well, how much money is it going to cost you? I prepared a report, Columbia Parkway Landslide Stabilization Project, Baines to Kemper, or Baines to Torrance. We issued that report in March 28th, and we asked for responses in middle of April. What we did was a request for information. Tell us about your company. Can you handle this job? What size? What type of equipment? Who can you bring in to do this work? Not how to do it, but tell us that you have the capabilities of doing it. While that report. You can't fix everything along Columbia Parkway from, that whole route there. So the report identified, it's 10 areas, but actually 12, but because I started going, in between 9 and 10, I did a 9A, okay, after I thought I didn't want to start renumbering things. And we also did a 6A, so there's 12, but, basically let's just say 10 areas or so. And we identified those are the areas that we want to target and stabilize. Areas 1 through 3 is from Baines to Kemper. Area 4 is on the side street of Kemper. 5 and 6 is east of Kemper. Then we have 7 and 8, and the one area 10, east of Taft Torrance. All right, so we put that out, and while we're writing this report, we're getting more slides occurring. This was the day before, or it slid the night before the Hart Mini Marathon, which is on the Columbia Parkway. So we combed that off, and I sat out there to make sure everyone stayed away from the slide and the slide wasn't going to start moving. It was a long day. Then also, you know, while we were there, we had this Area 9. Area 9 over here. We started getting some movement there. So this is, you know, right before that report was issued. And so we had to put another a picture in there of this light pole being knocked over by the landslide. We were getting continued movement there. And here we are in this is Area 9. All right. So not only this mass here broke loose, but you can kind of see a faint outline of that slide area right there. So I was concerned that this would possibly start coming down since we lost our support here down on the bottom. So we closed the road, those lanes, I think we were down to one lane, and then we did an emergency request for design build for Area 9. So this was removed from that main project that we put out. The Geostabilization International, GSI, they got this project, and they also did the project where we had that crib wall coming down. Those were both emergency design build projects. Okay, so we got 7 submittals for the request for information. From those 7, we whittled it down to 4. Of those 4, we asked for a request for a proposal. Tell us how you're going to fix it. Give us a price on how you're going to fix it. We have a selection committee. It consisted of 3 people from the Cincinnati Department of Transportation and Engineering. We had a person from engineer from Hamilton County, a geotechnical engineer from ODOT, and we also had personnel from representative from the Cincinnati Department of Economic Inclusion. So we reviewed those reports and selected our contractor. Our contractor that we selected was Beaver Excavating Company out of Canton, Ohio. Their designer is Geotechnology. Used to be G.J. Thielen and Associates for those. But so it's Beaver Excavating Company. Geotechnology was their design engineers, geotechnical firm. But while that was going on, okay, where we selected our consultant, our design build team on June 7th, but while that was going on, we had slides over here in areas 1 through 3. All right, so that came down in 1 through 3, and it was a large area also. I got a call when I was in Florida saying, Rich, it's moving there right now. Everyone, well, I'm in Florida, all right. So, anyways, I came back. We didn't have a contract yet with Beaver, but we were going through that process. They were in town. They were working on the I-75 project, so we had them. This was, really out of the scope of our transportation roadway operation divisions, the city's public services. So we went to Beaver, and they came out and they did an emergency removal here while we were negotiating their contract. As I said, so we looked at the 10 areas. The first areas that we went to, Beaver first wanted to investigate and design all of the area initially. And what we did then, we broke it in sections. So we did an investigation for areas 7 and 8, the 9A, and area 9A and area 10 first. And then we started construction then in October on area 10. So from August to October, it was more investigation of this area and design, and then we started construction in area 10. Skip the dates. Okay, there's basically two methods of stabilization that we came up with, and those were also presented in the report on Columbia Parkway, and it proved to be true. So we did soldier pile and lagging SPL walls. Soldier pile lagging walls is you putting beams in the ground, putting some lagging in between and holding back to hold back the soil. I'll show you some pictures and methods of construction of that. The other methods was soil nails. And it was basically a function of how thick was the soil and how steep was the ground of which one to use. The thicker soil with maybe flatter slopes was the soldier piles, and the steeper slopes with thinner soils was the soil nails. Time? I'm 5 minutes? Okay, we are moving. All right, so area 10 here, you can see, we have a slide right in here. It's coming down over into the Parkway, the telephone pole. I think since 2005 is when this first started here. I think this pole's been straightened at least 3-4 times since then, all right? So what we did, here's our soldier pile retaining walls. You're taking a drill rig with a big drill on it. You're drilling in a hole in the ground. The holes here on this area 10 wall was 36 inches. We put the beams in that hole, all right? Put the lagging in between. This one, we didn't have to put any wood lagging behind it, and we went right to the concrete lagging. Tried to mimic the architecture of the existing walls that were out there. It's all precast materials slid in between the beams. The other area in area 7 and 8, this was the path for the drill rig to get test borings and excavation. It followed the scarp line there. We had this lane closed ever since March of 2019. And here's our retaining wall. Once again, that's that soldier pile lagging wall. Drilling holes. I think we have 230 piers here, 6 foot on center. The beams themselves, they can weigh 160 pounds per lineal foot. They're 36 inches, 42 inches in depth. And that's that wall now. I like this wall, the looks of this wall. If you look at this wall, we're trying to mimic what was out there a little bit. Soil nails, okay, got a drill rig, drilling holes into the ground there, putting steel rods in there. You have the spacers to keep them in the hole, okay? Drilling the steel rods, 6 foot on center, maybe as much as 9 feet in center, depending on what material you're going into. Then you put a turf reinforcing mat, which assists in keeping the seating on the hillside. You're putting just a steel mesh on top of that. You're bolting it down with plates. And you can see how the mesh is on the hillside there. Your time?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me just go right a couple pictures here. Hydroseed it, okay, throw the seed on. Okay, this is area 9A after it's been seeded. So a year ago, area 9 is right here, right now. 5, 6, steep. Well, I apologize. I probably had too many slides here. I don't know. Do you want?
That's all right. Thank you so very much, Rich.
Let me go. Construction. That's how it drone from area 5, 6 down. All right.
This is a great presentation, Rick. We thank you so very much. I think what we'll need to do is extend this and have an evening with Rich Pohana. This is great. Let's give Rich another round of applause. We learned a lot today, Rich, and we let your presentation go on a little longer rather than having questions. We just have about 3 minutes left, unless one person has one question that they just really would like to ask. Okay, there's one right there. We'll take that one question and then we'll close because we're getting close to the end.
I'm assuming that the city had appealed to either ODOT or to the federal government for funding on this stabilization work. If that was the case, what was their response in turning down the city's request for funding to help cover the expenses here?
Well, it's the city's responsibility to maintain the Columbia Parkway US Route 50. We did receive funding for the landslide where the crib wall came down, and also for Area 9, which occurred in March. So there was emergency funding from the FHWA that we received for those two slides. But other than that, it's up to the city to maintain Columbia Parkway.
Okay. I just have a quick comment also. I had the privilege of walking up on this hillside to do some video work with Lori Quinlivan last year. I want to say that the guys you selected have done a very impressive job. I've been very impressed by their work. And it's been also a very dangerous job they've taken on up there, too. And the work looks like it's been handled just beautifully. So I just want to acknowledge that. I think
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause for that.
And,
Thank you very much for sharing that, too.
I also want to say that it's been a pleasure working with Beaver and Geotechnology. They've been great to work with, and we'll be finishing up September 22nd, and we're going to meet that target date.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Rich. And Rich, as we mentioned earlier, Rotary is still in the efforts of helping Rotary International, our Club 17, with the eradication of polio. In honor of your presentation today, and hopefully an extension of your presentation maybe later, we will donate some funds for the eradication of polio in your name.
Thank you very much.
And we have a Rotary Club 17 pin for you with our theme motto for this year, serve to change lives. So let's give Rich another round of applause, please. And we have several meetings this afternoon. After this meeting, we have the new member orientation meeting, which will be in Salons B and C. We have the World Affairs Committee meeting, which will be in the Julep Room on the 3rd floor. The Hands-on Service Committee meeting will be in the boardroom 4 on the mezzanine level. So let's go out and make it a great week and make sure we invite others to come, as August is New Member Week. And thank you so much for being here. Meeting adjourned.